Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Tech Bites. We have an interesting show planned for you today. We're talking AI Unleashed, exploring opportunities, risks, and the impact it has on cyber resiliency. AI has been in the headlines now for years. It's the talk of the town. We go to, industry events, and we have plenty of sessions that are highlighting the use cases of AI. So I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about this with you today. Today, I'm joined with my friend and colleague, Matt Crape. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Kirsten. Yeah, so I'm Matt Crape. I'm a senior technical product marketer here at Veeam. As Kirsten mentioned, AI is definitely a hot topic. I'm currently actually in Halifax. We just wrapped up a conference here at Canhite yesterday, and AI definitely had a big presence there, right? It's something that we're seeing all over the place now.
Yeah, that's true. Like you're in Halifax, I'm in DC at Shark Fest, and AI has a presence here as well. We were just talking about it yesterday, how you can use AI to help create filters for your networking tools and things like that. So it's definitely something that's becoming more of an assistant to your everyday job. So it's a generative AI world. You can create images using AI. So this is just one of the ways that you can use AI. Not only can you ask it questions, you can have it generate images. I know I was talking to you, Matt, a couple weeks ago, and you were saying that you guys were creating images using AI for stickers and things like that. So yeah, we created this picture here about with two people doing a live stream from home. Um, the audience should be connected through social media. One of the presenters should be male, the other one's female, presenting on topics based on data protection, cyber resiliency, monitoring, and analytics. And when you first take a look at this picture, you might think, oh, this looks actually pretty good. And, that's what I thought as well. I'm like, this is actually one of the good pictures that's generated because I've seen, some of this other stuff, and you can see a lot of anomalies within that picture. But if you look closely, you can see, the girl has, three legs. Their laptops kind of look like they're just floating in the air there. Some of the words on the screen aren't spelled correctly and different things like that. So the longer you look at some of these pictures that it's going to be generated, the more the picture might look odd to you. So as far as AI has come within these last couple years, there's still some work to do. So it's really important that when you use AI, you really, use your knowledge about what it's feeding back to you, right? It's not always going to be the most accurate thing. So not only is it going to help you, but you also need to double check it and make sure that what it's giving you makes sense.
Oh, for sure. A lot of us are probably very familiar with ChatGPT, for example. It's great for helping you, figure things out. I've used it to do things like write Yara rules for, our backup scans. But you always have to sort of verify these things, right? It might have its sources. You can ask it to cite sources, but there's also lots of cases where it just makes these things up as well. So, as you mentioned, these could be very useful tools, right? AI can definitely help these companies streamline operations, provide guidance. As I mentioned, maybe you're not a security expert and you need help writing a Yara rule. It's fantastic for stuff like that, right? Or even just as a research tool. Hey, can you give me a few examples of what I should be looking for when creating an instant response plan? So there's definitely some value there, right?
Yeah, I agree. And it really can help make your job more efficient, right? Before AI, I've been using some AI, I'm not gonna lie. I've been using it just to help me instead of, me typing into Google, hey, can you tell me more about this topic, I ask AI, hey, AI, can you help me create a filter for Wireshark, for example? And it comes to me and it spits out a filter. It tells me what it might be good for. And then I go and I test it. So really making my job a little bit more efficient instead of me constantly be scrounging through articles after articles, blogs after blogs, you're doing your research, you're trying to figure out how to do things, and it can really help identify some things right away so you can get started. And if we take a look at some of the other benefits that AI can give us, right, it's going to help with automation and efficiency, really saving time and resources on those repetitive tasks. So you can free up some time to do, more important tasks or more labor extensive tasks that you can do. It can provide innovation and scalability. So you leveraging machine learning and natural language processing to streamline analytics and analyzing big data sets and help with risk management and also competitive advantage. So identifying and mitigating risks by analyzing patterns or anomalies in data sets. Maybe it's going to offer you a competitive advantage over your competitors because maybe you're getting to the market sooner with your product and different things like that. Matt, what do you think about this slide?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this really highlights some of the key benefits. Thinking back to a former job that I had, we relied heavily, for example, on macros within Excel, right? Not exciting. They were a pain to work with. And when we had to write something new, we always had to spend days and days trying to figure this thing out. Thinking back to that, if I had something available, back then like we do now, I'd be able to go in there and say, hey, can you help me write an Excel macro? Here's what I'm trying to achieve. Maybe it'd spill out some code, test it, see if it works. But then I could also go back and say, are there any efficiencies I could put in place? Is there anything else I should be looking at? And see what sort of guidance it could provide us, right? But one that really stands out to me on this slide is the basically identifying patterns, looking for anomalies. You know, Longtime Veeam customers are probably familiar with Veeam 1. We kind of almost do that today with things like, hey, you know what? Your previous backups were all a certain size, but they've grown X number of percent. You might want to check into that. Or looking for things like the ransomware detection or the possible ransomware detection alarm, right? There's a lot of CPU usage going on. There's a lot of disk I/O going on. So we're kind of leveraging that today, right? Um, and for anyone at Veeam, we also kind of got a sneak peek at some of the stuff that's coming in the product as well.
Yeah, that's right. And Veeam actually has, an AI assistant that's already integrated with Veeam backup and replication, right? And it's really there to allow you to, if you're using Veeam and maybe you're a newer customer, or maybe you've been using Veeam for a while and you see something that you're unfamiliar with, or maybe you just updated to the new version and there's a new icon and you're like, what's this icon? The Veeam AI assistant's really going to be able to help you understand, what that functionality is, give you relevant information on, maybe how to use it, give you links to the user guide so you can learn more about it and different things like that. So Veeam already has this capability within it. And if we take a look, it's really easy. It's just, available to you right through the user interface, giving you, tips about how you can really make your backup deployment more efficient and work for you. But
Yeah.
like you mentioned, Matt, like didn't we had there was a lot of talk about Veeam about AI. And I believe there was like some announcement or something along those lines that talked about Veeam using AI in the future, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got a partnership right now with Microsoft. We're going to be leveraging Copilot a lot more. Anthony Spiteri gave a great demo where, basically walked through and started showing live on stage the contextual conversations you can have, right? So, hey, you go in there and you say, tell me about my backups. And then, okay, well, which ones are using up the most space? Okay, what type of workloads are these? And so forth and so forth. So what I like about the Veeam AI assistant today, I like to think of it as it brings the answers closer to the user, closer to the console. Not saying you're never going to have to go back to Help Center or open up a support ticket again, but being able to, pop in there quickly and maybe saying things like, what type of storage is supported for scale up backup repositories and just kind of getting the answer right away. Um, Also, what's really cool about this instance is it's trained on Veeam documents, right? So we're able to put the fence up to give it a good resource to use for knowledge and basically try to ensure that we're giving the best answer possible. So, like anything, like we said earlier, you still have to kind of verify all this sort of stuff. But we're really trying to set this up for success by giving it the best foot forward. Unfortunately, as good as AI is, as with anything, there's going to be, bad actors doing things with this as well, right? Kristen, like, what are your thoughts on some of the stuff that we're seeing out there now?
Yeah, I think that there is some bad actors out there, and Gen AI isn't going to be perfect. I always think about the hallucinations, right? There was a story that I read, and it was about a lawyer who was doing some research for one of his cases, and he decided to use AI to help him with his research. And he types in AI, and the AI comes back with all these cases that were similar to his case to help him out with his research for the case that he's doing. And then it just turns out that all those cases were fictional and they were false. So if you think about it, it's just like with all this great power comes great responsibility, right? It's like Spider-Man. And so in reality, like I always think that, there's so much good, but also you have to use some sort of almost double check it at times to really make sure that it's giving you accurate information. But not only are there hallucinations, we're also seeing that, bad actors are using it to infiltrate our systems, right, Matt?
No, absolutely. You release something into the world, like AI, and there's always going to be people who find a way to abuse it, use it in ways that was not intended. Um, this slide, I love the comments here, right? There's now at least 6 generative AI tools available to rent or purchase on the dark web. We've heard a lot about in the past how you go out there and basically buy a ransomware kit, build your own ransomware, and then deploy it. Maybe the group that you're buying it from, they get a cut of it and so forth. Now we're taking things to the next level. Phishing attacks are real, right? And you get things like fraud GPT, where all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know what? Let's actually make this seem even more real. It's scary. I've had to warn, my family, and I've had this conversation with many friends as well. It's like, I've told them point blank, if you ever get like a weird text message or email from me, even though it sounds like me, like double check these things, especially, as folks like you and I travel a lot, the last thing we want is for a loved one to get an email saying, oh, hey, I'm stuck, in such and such a place. Can you please send me money? Right? There's always that trust but verified component. And tools like this are just kind of adding to that issue.
Yeah, that's true. And that is pretty scary to think about, because they're saying, right, it hasn't happened to me yet. They're saying that they can use your voice and
Mm,
call someone you care about and they could sound like you too.
yeah.
See, that's pretty intense. I mean, I think it's always intense when you get like the emails or the text like package isn't delivered. Click on the link. I'm like, I'm not clicking that link. First of all, this the text is from a very strange person that I don't even know, a strange number. So but yeah, if we think about this and we take one of these like bad GPTs, right? Worm GPT is one of those tools, one of these chat AI tools that is, helping with business email compromise attacks. So it's really enabling these threat actors to, create an email, make it sound more sophisticated than it ever has before, and then send it off. And, these people who are receiving these emails are falling for it. And the threat actors don't even have to be, the most advanced technology wise, which is kind of scary, right? Because these are just people who are like, I want to make some extra money. I'm going to try this Worm GPT. I'm going to, launch these business email compromise attacks. And they might not even be in their native language, and it can, translate it into the language that you're familiar with and really get into your email and get this data and start encrypting it. What do you think about this, Matt?
Yeah, it truly is scary, thinking back to my days as an IT manager and There were a couple of phishing attempts that got through, but we stopped them before any damage was done. A lot of it comes down to user education, right? You need to be able to look at things objectively. And, the fact that there's tools now that make this seems so much more real is very scary, right? It's a huge risk for any organization out there, because once damage is done, it could be very hard to undo. And depending on what damage is done, there could be all sorts of repercussions, right? Maybe it's a matter of somebody sent money out. That money is gone now if it's been wired. Maybe there's been data that's been compromised, and now all of a sudden you have a compliance or regulatory issue, right? So it really is a huge issue. And backups definitely play a role in this as far as getting that recovery portion back in place. But there's also a big issue along with making sure your users actually are able to identify these risks. But similarly, security teams also need to be able to identify these risks earlier, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that user education and just knowing that this type of AI is out there is one of those things because we work in the tech industry. We know, like you were saying, you're telling your friends. So like we're hearing about this stuff, but not every person might be hearing about this on the day-to-day basis. So they might get an email or something like that. Seems legit, seems like it's good, and they might be like, oh, wire transfer coming your way, and then they're out that money. So it's really important to, you know, educate your users, educate your friends, and let people know what's going on. So yeah, if we think about how like Veeam can help you be proactive about your cybersecurity, not only like are you should be educating your end users, but you also need to protect your data, right? So using Veeam to detect and identify cyber threats, so early threat detection, using monitoring tools like Veeam One to really take a look at what's happening in your environment, taking a look at resource usage, monitoring your backup jobs, monitoring how much data is being transferred to your backup storage. Are you putting in place any of those tools that allow you to do inline scanning with Yara roles? Are you doing secure restore? And different things like that is really going to help you detect, if it's infiltrating your backup systems. But in reality, it's really important that you have some detection before it even gets to your backup. So what type of security tools are you using, and making sure that you're using them continuously to look for that suspicious activity. What about responding and recovering from ransomware, Matt? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the most common issue that I have heard talking, with customers, even just this week at this conference, is, you have to put the thought into when you're recovering, how do you ensure that you're recovering safely? And what I mean by that is, how do you make sure that you're not just reintroducing the threat, whether it's ransomware or whether it's, a loophole that, somebody got in using AI that they discovered. And that's where the tools like being able to perform that Yara scan as part of the recovery, being able, do an antivirus scan as part of the recovery, but also being able to recover to a different location. So let's use the example of maybe your hypervisor environment was compromised, right? Using Veeam, we can actually take your data and move it to another platform for you without losing anything, right? We could instantly recover from, let's say, a VMware environment to a Hyper-V environment, if that's the plan of action for a compromise. So there's definitely lots of areas that we can help with, but having a good instant response plan in place is key to have before you need it, right? You need to be able to test it. Things like Veeam Recovery Orchestrator can do the automated testing, documentation for you. But the other component to that as well is, making sure that you're set up for compliance. Compliance is a topic, I can't speak for you, Kirsten, but it's a topic that probably within the last 2 years, the number of conversations I've had with customers where it's kind of gone in that direction, it's just kind of skyrocketed. Why is that? Well, there's a lot more legalities out there now. In a lot of situations, it's not even just a matter of an organization could be fined for, being non-compliant. Individuals can be fined now, depending on what's going on. And quite often, it's not uncommon to hear about potential jail time, depending on what sort of compliance is being violated, right? So it's really important to make sure that you have a good understanding of what do you actually need for your line of business, from a legal standpoint or internal security standpoint, and are you achieving that, right? Where are the risks? Where are the gaps? So things, Veeam Threat Center, that's a great tool that kind of takes a bunch of all the compliance data across the platform, rolls it up into a very easy to read dashboard. So you can see anomalies, you can see violations, you can see basically, hey, you know what, we've had ransomware detected in this backup. So it really is something that you need to make sure that you have in place and you understand what you need before you actually need it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Not only having a plan, a response plan, making sure you're preparing for that attack, right? Because with the ransomware trends report, it's very that just came out a couple weeks ago and was announced at Veeam. It's like, what does it say? It said like 75% organizations have experienced a ransomware attack. And most of the times it's not just one, it could be, multiple attacks throughout the year. So really when it comes to a cyber attack, ransomware getting into your environment, it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. So if you don't have a response plan created now, you're almost, starting, 3 steps behind compared to a business that already has a response plan because they're going to know, what to do when that ransomware gets in, maybe even where to restore that data. They're going to make sure that their backups are protected using, air gapped, offline, or immutable backups to make sure that they can restore that data. And then you even mentioned with Threat Center, right? Like that's such a powerful tool that's included within the Veeam data platform, advanced, right? And you're going to be able to see, are you following those best practices? Are you meeting those um, best practices, configurations, security checks, and things like that? Do you have immutable backups? Is it checking, do you have malware scanning set up? So really, all those things are really going to help make sure that you keep your business protected. So if you guys want some more information here, a lot of this stuff was talked about at VMon. I know we mentioned earlier that there was some really good sessions on what Veeam is doing with AI, and what we plan to do with AI in the future. I know I was just on the VMon on-demand website last night, and I did see, one of the sessions on there was about Threat Center. So if you're like Threat Center, I haven't heard of it yet, you can go check it out. You can watch it on demand. I know Jorge was here last week talking about Threat Center as well. So if you missed that one, that would be a good one to catch. And these sessions are still available to you right now. So I don't know if they'll be available forever, but I know you can still access them right now. So if you missed VeeamON and you want to know, what happened there, what announcements were made, maybe you want to dig a little deeper on one of the features that Veeam has introduced, or you're more curious about it, definitely check out veeamon.com, register if you haven't already, and you can catch some of these sessions on demand.
Yeah, and I think some of the highlights, the most buzz that I've been hearing about is, Rick Vanover did a great demo on stage showing how you can actually migrate from one hypervisor to another using Veeam. So that was kind of cool. But that ties in nicely to, Proxmox is coming. Be on the lookout for that. So another hypervisor. So that'll be 6 hypervisors now that we support, along with being able to migrate data through all of those as well as to the cloud. Intra ID, that was announced. So Veeam backup for Intra ID. Expect that to be coming in the near future. But yeah, lots of great stuff. Definitely lots of talk about AI as well. Not just from the Veemers. A lot of customers had great conversations about AI as well.
Yeah, and I loved Rick's demo because I was watching it, and it was like he was doing the instant recovery to, I think it was like Azure, and he like almost ended his demo, and then you could see like in his head the little light bulb moment, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I have to finish the migration," because
Hmm.
with instant recovery, you have to finish the migration, and I chuckled a little to my head because he literally did like one of these and was
Yeah.
like the migration, So, but yeah, it was a great event. So if you missed out this year, you better be there next year, right?
Absolutely.
So that is all what that we have for you today, guys. As always, it's so good that you guys were able to join us for our live stream today. Thank you so much for coming out. Matt, thank you again for, joining me as my co-presenter on this Tech Bites. I really appreciate it.
I'm always happy to help out. So thanks for having me. I really enjoy these.
And we'll see you on the next Tech Bites. Everyone have a great day.
Bye, all.
Like he was doing the instant recovery to, I think it was like Azure, and he like almost ended his demo, and then you could see like in his head the little light bulb moment. He was like, "Oh yeah, I have to finish the migration," because with instant recovery, you have to finish the migration. And I chuckled a little to my head because he literally did like one of these and was like the migration, So, but yeah, it was a great event. So if you missed out this year, you better be there next year, right?
Absolutely.
So